My girlfriend said, "I'm moving my mom into your guest room. You don't use it anyway." Her mom hated me and had called me slurs. I said, "This is my house." She gave her mom a key anyway. When I changed the locks and her mom couldn't get in, she threatened to sue. My lawyer's response letter. I, 33 male, am a plumber. Master licensed, union card, the whole deal. I run service calls for a company during the week and do side jobs on Saturdays when the money makes sense. I bought my house 4 years ago, a 3-bedroom ranch, 1,400 square feet, nothing magazine-worthy, but it's mine. My name on the mortgage, my name on the deed. I painted every room myself, replaced the water heater, retiled the bathroom. It smells like paint and PVC cement and whatever candle my girlfriend picked from Target. It's home. My girlfriend moved in about 1.5 years ago. We've been dating for 2 years before that. She's a dental hygienist. She pays me $600 a month in rent. We agreed on that number together. It's not market rate, not even close. My mortgage is $1,340, and the house would rent for around $1,800. $600 was what she could comfortably afford while paying off her student loans. I was fine with that. She also splits groceries and covers streaming subscriptions. No formal lease, just a verbal agreement between two people who were supposed to trust each other. Now, her mother. Her mother is a piece of work. I am mixed race, half black, half white. My dad was black, my mom is white, and I look like exactly what I am. Her mother has had a problem with this since day one. Not the overt, slur-shouting in public kind of racism at first. More the, "Oh, you're so articulate, and you don't act like" kind. The kind where she'd look at my house and say, "You did really well for yourself," with emphasis on the well, like she was surprised a man who looked like me could afford drywall. I tolerated it because I loved my girlfriend and because her mother lived an hour away and visits were limited. My girlfriend would say that's just how she is, and she doesn't mean it like that. And I'd let it go because choosing your battles is supposed to be the mature thing. Then about 6 months ago, it stopped being subtle. We were at a family cookout at her aunt's house. I was the only non-white person there, which wasn't unusual and didn't normally bother me. I was standing by the grill talking to her uncle, who's actually a decent guy, when her mother walked up and said, loudly, in front of 4 other people, that she was worried about the kind of children her daughter would have with me because mixed kids have identity issues. I looked at her. Her uncle looked at her. One of the cousins looked at her. Nobody said a word, because that's what happens in these situations. Everyone freezes and waits for someone else to react first. I put down my plate and said, "I'm going to go." My girlfriend followed me to the car. She didn't mean it like that. She meant it exactly like that. She's old-fashioned. She's racist. Don't call my mother racist. Then tell your mother to stop saying racist things. We drove home in silence. She never brought up again. She also never confronted her mother about it. That was the first crack looking back. There were other incidents, smaller ones. Her mother coming to our house for Thanksgiving and making a comment about how the neighborhood looked different than she expected. It's a normal suburban street. Her mother asking me if I knew my father at dinner, as a genuine question. Her mother telling my girlfriend, within earshot of me, that she should keep her options open. Each time, my girlfriend would excuse it, minimize it, tell me I was being sensitive. And each time, I'd swallow it and move on because the alternative, forcing her to choose between me and her mother, felt like an ultimatum I didn't want to deliver. Then, 3 weeks ago, my girlfriend sat me down at the kitchen table with the energy of someone delivering a TED Talk they'd been rehearsing in the shower. "So, my mom's landlord is selling the building. She has to be out in 60 days, and I think she should move into the guest room." I stared at her. "What? The guest room? You don't use it anyway. It's just sitting there with boxes in it. Those boxes contain my tools and seasonal stuff. We can move the boxes to the garage. The garage is my workspace. You can reorganize. Your mother is not moving into my house." She blinked. "Why not?" "Because she's called me slurs. Because she's questioned whether our future children would be okay because of my race. Because she's made me feel unwelcome in my own home every single time she visits. And because this is my house, and I said no. She's my mother. She's about to be homeless. She's a 61-year-old woman with a pension from the school district, Social Security, and a sister who lives 20 minutes from here. She has options. My guest room is not one of them. You're being heartless. I'm being honest. She doesn't respect me. She doesn't like me. She's made that clear repeatedly. And you want her to live in my house. It's our house. It's my house. My mortgage. My deed. My name. You pay $600 a month, which I appreciate, but that doesn't make it yours. That one landed hard. I know it did because her face changed. And honestly, I felt bad saying it. It sounded meaner out loud than it did in my head. But it was also true. And sometimes the truth doesn't come with soft edges. She didn't speak to me for 2 days. I figured the conversation was over. I was wrong. Last Saturday, I came home from a side job at around 4 p.m. Pulled into the driveway. There was a car I recognized parked on the street. Her mother's white Buick Enclave. Fine. She's visiting. Annoying but fine. I walked in the front door. There were 2 suitcases in the hallway. A garment bag on the couch. A box of kitchen stuff. A crock pot. Some Tupperware. A set of ceramic mugs sitting by the stairs. Her mother was in my guest room. Unpacking. I stood in the doorway. She looked at me with this expression. Not hostile, not friendly. Just settled. Like she'd already decided this was happening and my presence was a formality. Your girlfriend said I could have this room. It's smaller than I'd like, but it'll do. I turned around, walked to the kitchen, and found my girlfriend making sweet tea, like it was a normal Saturday. What is happening? She had nowhere to go. I couldn't just let her. I said no. I know, but I said no. In this house. At this table. 11 days ago. I said no. She's my mother. And this is my house. Did you give her a key? She hesitated. That hesitation was the answer. You gave her a key to my house. I had a copy made. It's not a big deal. You made a copy of my house key and gave it to a woman who has called me racial slurs. Without my permission. In my house. You're being dramatic. I walked to the guest room. Her mother was hanging clothes in the closet. My closet that held MY stuff, which had apparently been moved to the garage without my knowledge. Ma'am, you need to leave. She turned around. Excuse me. I didn't authorize this. You were not invited by me. This is my house, and you need to leave. My daughter told me I could stay here. Your daughter doesn't have the authority to make that decision. This is my property. I need you to pack your things and leave. She drew herself up to her full height, which was about 5'4", and said, I am not going anywhere. My daughter lives here. I have a key, and if you try to put me out, I will call the police. You're welcome to call whoever you'd like, but you're not staying here. She did, in fact, call the police. 2 officers showed up about 30 minutes later. She met them at the door before I could and told them her daughter's boyfriend was trying to throw an elderly woman out on the street. She is 61 and fully mobile, but apparently elderly was the play. The officers looked at me, and immediately I could feel the temperature shift. 2 male officers, one older and one younger. The older one looked at her, looked at me, and I could see him doing the calculation that happens in these situations. Older white woman crying, younger mixed-race guy standing in the doorway looking frustrated. I know what that math produces. I've seen it my whole life. Sir, what's going on here? I explained. Calmly. Clearly. My house. My mortgage. My deed. She was not invited. She was given a key without my consent. I wanted her to leave. The older officer said, Can she stay somewhere tonight while you all figure this out? She has a sister 20 minutes from here. Do you have proof of ownership? I got the deed. I got the mortgage statement. I got my driver's license matching the address. I showed them everything. The younger officer nodded. The older one still looked at me like I was the problem, but he told her mother, Ma'am, if the homeowner is asking you to leave and you're not on the lease or mortgage, you should probably find alternative arrangements for tonight. She left, with her suitcases and her garment bag and her crock pot. She called me a word I'm not going to type on the way out. The hard one. The one that stops being old-fashioned and starts being exactly what it is. My girlfriend watched her mother call me that word and said nothing. Absolute silence. Then she looked at me and said, I hope you're happy. I changed the locks the next morning. Both doors. New deadbolts, new doorknob locks. $220 in hardware. I did it myself because I'm a plumber and working with my hands is literally what I do. Update 1, 6 days later. The lock change triggered a Category 5 meltdown from everyone in her orbit. Monday morning, 2 days after I changed the locks, her mother drove to my house while I was at work and tried to use the old key. It didn't work. She tried both doors. Then, according to my Ring doorbell camera, best $200 I ever spent, she stood on my front porch for 11 minutes calling someone on her phone, pacing back and forth, and at one point tried to look through the front window by cupping her hands against the glass. My girlfriend was at work too. Neither of them could get in. Not because I'd locked my girlfriend out. I'd given her the new key that morning. But her mother didn't have a new key, which was the entire point. My girlfriend called me during her lunch break. My mom went to the house and the locks were changed. Correct. She couldn't get in. Correct. She's my mother. She called me a racial slur on my front porch in front of 2 police officers. She's not getting a key to my house. You can't just change the locks. I can. It's my house. I changed the locks because an unauthorized person had a key to my property. You're punishing my mother. I'm securing my home. She hung up on me. That evening, she came home using her new key, and we had the worst argument of our relationship. She told me I was controlling. She told me I was isolating her from her family. She told me her mother was just trying to be close and that I was making everything about race when it isn't. That last one almost broke me because it's a special kind of gaslighting when someone acknowledges that racist things were said but insists they weren't racist. Like the words rearrange themselves into something innocent once they leave the speaker's mouth. Your mother called me the N-word, I said, to my face, on my property, while being escorted out by police. She was upset. Being upset is not a racial slur defense. She's from a different generation. She's 61, not 104. She knows what that word means. You're never going to let this go, are you? No, I'm not. She slept in the guest room that night. The irony of her sleeping in the room she tried to install her mother and was not lost on me. Wednesday is when the legal threat arrived. I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. It was her mother. She got my number from my girlfriend's phone, or I had it already. I don't know. The text said, I'm consulting with an attorney about my rights to access the property where my daughter resides. You have illegally changed the locks to prevent me from entering a home where I was establishing residency. If this is not resolved within 48 hours, I will be filing a formal complaint and pursuing legal action for illegal lockout and discrimination. I read it twice. Then I screenshot it and sent it to my coworker who'd gone through a messy divorce and always had practical advice. He said 3 words, get a lawyer. I called one Thursday morning. A property attorney recommended by my union. $300 consultation fee. I brought everything. The deed, the mortgage, my girlfriend's Venmo payments showing $600 per month labeled rent, screenshots of the mother's text threatening legal action, and the Ring doorbell footage of her trying to enter my home. My lawyer, a woman in her 50s with reading glasses and a coffee mug that said objection, reviewed everything in about 20 minutes and then looked at me over those glasses and said, she has 0 legal standing. She was never a resident. She never paid rent. She never received mail there. She spent approximately 2 hours in the guest room before being asked to leave. That doesn't establish residency in any jurisdiction I'm aware of. The key was given without the homeowner's authorization, making it an unauthorized copy. You changed the locks on your own property, which is your absolute right. And the threat to sue for discrimination is particularly creative given that you're the one who was called a slur in your own home. She drafted a response letter. I want to frame this letter. I want it tattooed on my body. I want it read at my funeral. The letter, addressed to her mother, stated in legal language, but I'll translate, that the property was solely owned by me, that her mother had never been a tenant, guest, or authorized occupant, that the key she possessed was duplicated without the homeowner's consent and was therefore unauthorized, that her presence on the property after being told to leave constituted trespassing, and any future unauthorized entry attempts would be reported as such, that her claim of establishing residency was legally baseless, as a 2-hour presence does not create tenant rights under any applicable statute, that any claim of discrimination would be met with a counterclaim detailing documented racial harassment by her toward the homeowner, including a racial slur used in the presence of police officers and multiple witnesses. And finally, that if she contacted me again by phone, text, in person, or through third parties regarding access to the property, I would seek a restraining order. The letter was sent by a certified mail. Signature required. Her mother signed for it on a Saturday morning. The response to the letter was silence for about 3 days. Then her mother called my girlfriend, and the screaming was so loud I could hear it from the next room despite the phone not being on speaker. I caught fragments, humiliated, lawyer letter like I'm a criminal. That man never should have let you. My girlfriend came out of the bedroom with red eyes and said, "My mother is never going to speak to me again because of you. Your mother threatened to sue me for changing the locks on my own house after she called me the N-word. This isn't because of me. Everything is always about you. The house is, yeah, because it's mine." Update 2, 3 weeks later. Her mother didn't stay quiet. She found a new angle. Not legal. Personal. She started calling my girlfriend every single day. Not to mend things. To escalate. Every call was another pressure campaign. Leave him. He doesn't respect our family. A real man wouldn't treat your mother this way. Come stay with your aunt and me. You're wasting your best years on someone who sends lawyers after old women. My girlfriend wouldn't tell me the details, but I could hear the toll. She was quieter. She was sleeping in the guest room most nights. She stopped buying groceries, not as a power play. I think she just stopped caring about the routine. She'd come home from work, go straight to the bedroom, close the door. We were roommates with a shared history and nothing else. I tried twice to have a real conversation with her. The first time, she said, "I can't talk about this anymore." The second time, she said, "My mother is right. You made me choose, and I shouldn't have to choose. I never asked you to choose. I asked you not to move a woman who calls me slurs into my house. Those are different requests. It feels the same. It doesn't feel the same." But I couldn't make her see that, and I was running out of energy to try. Then her brother got involved. Her older brother, a car salesman with a firm handshake and the kind of confidence that comes from never having been told no by his mother. He called me on a Tuesday night. "Listen, man, I'm trying to keep the peace here. My mom is old, and she's scared, and she lost her apartment. You got to make some kind of accommodation. Your mom called me the N-word. She says that's not what she said. I have it on a Ring camera." Brief silence. "Well, people say things when they're stressed. I don't. I don't call people slurs when I'm stressed. Do you? That's not the point. It is literally the point. Look, she's not going to live with you forever. Just let her stay a few months till she figures something out. No, you're making this harder than it needs to be. Your mother made it hard when she decided to be racist in my home. I didn't create this situation. She did. He tried to be the bigger man angle. He tried the family is everything angle. He tried to think about your relationship angle. I said no to all of them. Not because I enjoyed saying no. Because no was the only honest answer available. 2 days later, my girlfriend came home with a folder. An actual manila folder. Inside were printouts from legal websites about common law tenancy and cohabitant property rights. She'd been researching whether she had a legal claim to the house, whether she could overrule my decision about who lived there based on her status as a live-in partner. She put the folder on the kitchen table and said, "I have rights too." I picked up the folder. Read through it. Most of it was irrelevant. Articles about married couples, joint ownership disputes, states with different cohabitation laws than ours. "None of this applies to our situation," I said. "We're not married. You're not on the deed. You're not on the mortgage. You pay $600 a month in rent with no written lease. You have tenant rights. I can't kick you out without notice. But you don't have ownership rights. You can't move people into my house against my will. My attorney says differently." "You have an attorney?" "I consulted one." "And what did they actually say?" She paused. "They said, it's complicated." "It's not complicated. They said you don't have a claim, and you're interpreting it's complicated as hope." She grabbed the folder and went to the guest room. Slammed the door. Here's where I made my decision. Not in a dramatic flash of clarity. In the quiet of my living room at 11 p.m. on a Thursday, sitting on a couch that still had the throw blanket she'd picked out draped over the back, drinking a beer and staring at the wall. I couldn't keep doing this. I loved her, or loved who she'd been before all of this. But I couldn't share a house with someone who was actively trying to find legal loopholes to override my decisions about my own property. Someone who watched her mother call me the worst word in the English language and responded with silence. Someone who'd given an unauthorized key to a person who hated me and then acted like I was the villain for changing the locks. Friday morning, I told her it was over. I need you to move out. I'll give you 30 days, which is more than the legal minimum for a month-to-month tenant in our state. I'm not doing this out of anger. I'm doing this because we can't fix this and staying together is making us both miserable. She cried, genuinely, and I felt it, that gut punch of watching someone you care about hurt because of a decision you made. But I also knew that every tear was about losing the house, the arrangement, the below-market rent, the comfort. Not about losing me. She'd stopped seeing me weeks ago. I was just the obstacle between her mother and the guest room. You're throwing me out for my mother. I'm in a relationship that stopped being a relationship the moment you chose her comfort over my dignity. She moved out over the following 2 weeks. Her brother came with a truck. He didn't speak to me. Her mother sat in the Buick Enclave in the street the entire time, watching. I stayed in the kitchen and let them work. When they were done, my girlfriend left the key on the counter, the new one I'd given her, and walked out without a word. The house was quiet. For the first time in weeks, it was actually quiet. I sat in the guest room, empty now, just carpet and bare walls, and felt the weight of all of it. Not relief, not sadness, just weight. Update 3. Final, 5 weeks later. All right, final chapter. After she moved out, I expected silence. That's usually how breakups work when someone leaves with a truck and a grudge. But her family apparently operates on a different timeline. 3 days after she moved out, I received a letter from a real attorney. Not the attorney her mother had supposedly consulted, an actual law firm. The letter claimed I had wrongfully evicted my girlfriend without proper notice and demanded $4,800 in relocation damages, representing 6 months of the rent differential between what she paid me, $600, and what she'd now have to pay at market rate, $1,400 estimated. They were billing me for the discount I'd given her. Let that sink in. I charged her below-market rent out of kindness, and now they were trying to argue that the difference was a debt I owed her for making her leave. I called my lawyer. She read the letter, took off her reading glasses, and said, "This is the legal equivalent of demanding a refund on a gift card. I'll handle it." Her response letter, and again, I want to frame this thing, was devastating. It stated, my girlfriend was a month-to-month tenant who'd been given the legally required 30-day notice. I'd actually given her more. There was no lease stipulating any rent amount, duration, or renewal terms. The rent she paid was a voluntary verbal agreement, not a contractual obligation on my part. Seeking relocation damages for the loss of below-market rent is not a recognized cause of action in our state. Furthermore, and this was my lawyer's signature move, the letter noted that if the opposing party wished to pursue the matter further, we would be compelled to enter into evidence the documented racial harassment by the girlfriend's mother, including video footage from a Ring doorbell camera capturing the use of a racial slur directed at the homeowner. We would also petition the court for recovery of the $220 in lock replacement costs, the $300 initial consultation fee, and all subsequent legal fees incurred as a result of the family's pattern of harassment and frivolous legal threats. The letter ended with a single sentence that my lawyer said she'd been saving for exactly this kind of case. We welcome litigation, as it will provide a public forum for the full record of this matter. They did not pursue litigation. What they did instead was absolutely nothing. The lawyer who'd sent the demand letter apparently dropped at the moment they received my lawyer's response. No follow-up, no call, no counteroffer, just a void where their bluff used to be. My lawyer told me this happens more than people realize. Someone hires a lawyer to write a scary letter, the other side responds with substance, and the whole thing evaporates because there was never a real case to begin with. Now, the aftermath that actually matters. My girlfriend moved in with her aunt. Not her mother, her aunt, who apparently had a spare room and a higher tolerance for family drama. Her mother ended up renting a one-bedroom apartment about 15 minutes from the aunt's place. The pension and Social Security covered it. She was never going to be homeless. That was always a fabrication designed to create urgency and guilt. She had income. She had family with space. What she wanted was access to my house, specifically because I'd told her she couldn't have it. I found out through a mutual friend, a guy I played basketball with on Thursday nights who also knows her brother, that the family's narrative of what happened was creative. In their version, I was abusive and kicked out my girlfriend with no warning because I couldn't handle her mother staying for a few days. No mention of the racial slurs. No mention of the unauthorized Qley. No mention of the fact that I'd said no and been overridden. Just a black man who couldn't control his temper, throwing a helpless white family out of a house they had every right to be in. I know what that narrative is designed to do. It's designed to activate a specific set of assumptions. And for some people who don't know me, who only hear one side, it probably works. But I have the ring footage. I have the lawyer letters. I have the Venmo records and the mortgage and the deed and the text messages. I have the truth documented in time-stamped, notarized, legally admissible detail. If that narrative ever goes anywhere beyond family gossip, the evidence speaks for itself. The mutual friend told me something else. He said my ex's brother had told him, off the cuff after a couple of beers, that their mother had been calling me slurs at family gatherings for years, not just the ones I witnessed. Things said when I wasn't in the room. Things my girlfriend heard and never told me about. The brother said it like it was just background noise. Like the wallpaper. Something that was always there, so you stopped seeing it. That piece of information, my girlfriend sitting at family dinners hearing her mother say those things about me, and then coming home and sleeping next to me like everything was fine, that hit harder than anything else. Harder than the Qley. Harder than the suitcases. Harder than being called that word on my own porch. Because it meant the betrayal wasn't the day she moved her mother in. The betrayal was every day she came home and said nothing. Here's where I am. The house is mine. Quiet. Clean. The guest room has my tools back in it. The garage has my workbench where it belongs. I replaced the throw blanket on the couch because it smelled like her perfume and I didn't want to think about it anymore. I bought a new one from Costco. It's gray. It does the job. My lawyer's total bill came to $1,600 across the whole ordeal. The consultation, the 2 response letters, and a brief follow-up where she confirmed the opposing attorney had dropped the matter. $1,600 to protect my house, my dignity, and my sanity. I'd pay it 10 times over. The Ring camera stays. The new locks stay. The camera footage from the day her mother called me that word. I've backed it up to 2 separate cloud drives and a USB stick in my toolbox. Not because I'm planning to use it. Because some evidence is too important to lose. Because when someone tells me that's not what happened, I want to know, even if just for myself, that I have the receipt. I miss her sometimes. I'm honest about that. Not the version at the end, the version from before. The version who'd make playlists for road trips we never took and burn pancakes on Sunday mornings and fall asleep on my shoulder during movies she picked and then denied picking. That version didn't survive contact with her mother's entitlement and her own inability to say, "Mom, stop." Someone told me once that you don't break up with a person. You break up with the future you were imagining with them. The person is already gone. The future is what you mourn. That's what this feels like. Mourning a future that had a really good floor plan, but no foundation. My house has a foundation. I checked. Literally. I inspected it before I bought it. No cracks. No settling. Solid concrete. I'm a plumber. I fix things for a living. I couldn't fix this, but I could protect what's mine. And I did. That's the whole story. I'm going to go check on my water heater because it's been making a weird sound, and honestly, that problem is way more manageable than the last 6 weeks.